Hello again, welcome back everyone. LiquorHound here with you, and thank you for joining me once again for another spirit review video. So recently, the Knob Creek bourbon line has released on the regular a 12-year-old bourbon, bottled at 100 proof, retail pricing about $65. Now, if we remember, I think back 2019, it came out as a limited edition expression, and then that was followed, actually joined by the 15-year-old limited edition. Now, this has not come back yet. There may be a second round because they did put a nice little batch number there on the front for us. But the 15-year-old, also 100 proof, still using the exact same mash bill, 77% corn, 13% rye, 10% barley. Retail pricing on the 15, 100, 125, somewhere in there, okay? Amongst people I, have tastings with or talk to about whiskeys, my group of friends, there's always been this kind of split amongst which one they like better, right? I have friends that love the 12 and friends that really love the 15 more. So what I'm going to do is, since it's been kind of very polarizing in that way, I think it's going to be the same way for you. So what I'm going to try to do is just give you, as I always do, the accurate tasting notes, and then you can decide which one is going to fit your palate and profile the best, okay? All right, so here we go. We're going to start by nosing the 12-year-old here. Nice little swirl. Wow, okay, very nice. This is almost like a really nice combination of brown sugar and caramel. Of course, caramel in bourbon is usually a younger characteristic. As they get older, they usually tend to go more into the bourbon, maybe even the darker burnt sugars beyond that. But for this one, well, it has a lot of mixed brown sugar caramel. There's also a really big vibrancy as far as the fruit's concerned. I get a lot of cherries. I get a lot of almost cherries, almost hinting at like dried strawberries. Yeah, I'll go that. Dried strawberries, cherries, apples, like dried apples. Lots of baking spices, so that, typical clove, anise, maybe even a little nutmeg and cinnamon are all in here. Well, there's a little bit of a sour component as well, maybe some plums, sour plums, maybe a little bit of apple cider vinegar. Blow that out and reset. There's a little bit of an herbalness in here as well. It's almost like a little bit of like a minty, lightly minty, almost like a straw type characteristic. And a little hint of nuttiness. But it's not the typical nuttiness that I usually find on a lot of Jim Beam products. You usually find a really heavy peanut nowadays. But for this one, it's not so much that. This is more on the maybe almonds and I guess a little bit of pecan in here. A little lemon oil, a little orange oil. So there's definitely a little citrus happening as well. Okay, now we're going to nose the 15-year-old. Reset there. Here we go. Oof, wow. Much more oak. There's also some earthiness in this one. Okay, but I would say, first of all, the sugar component. This was brown sugar and caramel. This is brown sugar and now going into molasses, all right? Very deep and dark in that sense. Yes, definitely some earthiness, some peanuts in this one. And it's those red Spanish peanuts. And with that amount of brown sugar, it always kind of reminds me of like those little red candy peanut patties. That's in this one. That kind of herbal mint straw thing that I was picking up on the nose here. I think this has a whole totally different aromatic there. This one has gone more into the earthy tone, so a little bit of soil. I guess I could still see a little bit of like a damp hay in here as well. But as far as the fruits, there's cherries, apples, orange oil. I would leave it right about there. The sourness, though, almost like I was getting the sour plum component, but in here it's apple cider vinegar for sure. Bigger cinnamon and clove. I'm not picking up any nutmeg. Maybe a touch of anise, not a lot. But a lot of orange oil, and it's almost like as if you were to, because it's very almost brandy-ish on the nose, like an old Armagnac. So imagine cooking those fruits down in Armagnac with brown sugar. That's what this one has. Lots of oak. Nuttiness beyond the peanut is walnut characteristic here. Old leather and tobacco. I tell you what, there is a little bit of that's kind of unique here, because what's happening is that earthiness is also joined, which was kind of like a, I don't know, I think it's almost like a straw, that wet hay thing that I was picking up is also joined by a little touch of menthol. I don't know if that's going to come through on the palate, but that's pretty good there. All right. Get a little pre-rinse. Get ready for the 12-year-old. Let me re-nose this now that I was just coming off that 15. Oof, yeah. I would say this one also has a lot more barrel kind of influence as far as it just being the sweet vanilla oak. That's this one. It still has that real bright cherry and apple thing. This one's much darker, older, damp cellar type situation smelling here. All right, here we go. Running it across my palate, checking viscosity. Ooh. Pretty nice, just above medium viscosity. Enters that brown sugar, a little bit of that caramel sweetness. Ooh, lots of oak already for the 12-year-old. But that vanilla tone, that natural vanilla bean is in here. Pecans definitely in this one, not peanut. Big oak. Oh, big oak. Let's try it again. The cherries, that dried apple tone. A little bit of dusting of cocoa powder. The baking spices provide a little bit of amplification right there on the mid palate. Starts drying out on the back end with that combination of that dried cocoa and that leather. Leather does feel a little new. That kind of herbal tone that I was picking up in the middle on the palate kind of comes through as, I would just call it a little bit of like a green tea essence in there. Not too much beyond that. Little bit of that lemon oil, a little bit of the orange oil, not a lot. But to me, it's a really, really good, straightforward bourbon. So I can see why people really like this one. It doesn't have that, it's a lot of oak, but it's not over oaked, okay? All right, now to the 15. Oof, yeah. Yeah, that's very big. So for this one, it is kind of like brandy cherries, a little bit of those cooked down apples in with that. Ooh, lots of those Spanish peanuts in here. Brown sugar, that molasses comes through onto the palate. Peanuts just kind of riding really heavy. What you are losing here is that really nice vanilla bean essence that this one had. This one's kind of gone beyond that. It's focusing more on that earthy tone that it arrives on the mid palate. That hits with the oak and really just starts dark chocolate, and it just really starts kind of drying out on the back end, walnut bitterness. And I will say, even though it does have a lot of dry characteristic on the back end, it's not like sucking the cheeks in or anything like that. It's big and oaky, all right? I do like that little sourness that's in here, that little apple cider vinegar tone. I like that about it. Ooh. I really like this one. I don't think you can really go wrong. I just think here you better like peanuts, and you need to be able to handle a lot of oak, okay, because it is in here. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video review and this little comparison of the two. It's hard to pick a favorite. Matter of fact, you know, I would personally think the best thing would probably be the blend of the two. But I haven't tried that yet. Maybe I'll do that with the rest of that. But keep leaving all those great comments. Of course, you can join us over at patreon.com/LiquorHound to get all these videos ad-free. Get them 2 weeks early. You're going to help keep this channel alive. And thank you, each and every one of you, regardless of where you're watching, whether it's YouTube or Patreon. Greatly appreciate you. So again, leave those comments. I'll get back to them just as soon as I can. Everyone have a great day, and cheers.